June 23rd, 1944. Somewhere in Normandy, France. German reconnaissance pilot Lieutenant Hans Becker flew his Focke-Wulf 190 low over Allied lines, photographing tank formations near the town of Trevier. His camera captured everything: dozens of M4 Sherman tanks in neat rows, supply trucks, artillery positions, all the signs of a major armored division preparing for offensive operations. He returned to base and filed his report. American 2nd Armored Division massing near Trevier. Estimate 300-plus vehicles. Appears to be preparing for push toward Saint-Lô. German intelligence marked the location on their maps. Troops were repositioned to counter the threat. Artillery was ranged. Defensive positions were reinforced. There was just one problem. The 2nd Armored Division wasn't there. It was 60 miles away, preparing for an entirely different operation. What Becker had photographed wasn't an armored division. It was a theater production. The tanks were inflatable rubber. The trucks were painted canvas stretched over wooden frames. The artillery positions were logs with fake barrels. And the soldiers maintaining it all were artists, designers, and sound engineers from the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. The Ghost Army. The idea was born from desperation. In early 1944, Allied planners faced an impossible problem. They needed to invade France, but German intelligence was tracking their every move through aerial reconnaissance, signal intercepts, and agent reports. Every real division they positioned, the Germans would counter. Every genuine troop buildup would be met with German reinforcements. Winning the war required not just military strength, but strategic deception on a massive scale. Someone suggested, what if we created fake units? Phantom divisions that would draw German forces away from our real operations. The problem was logistics. Building fake tanks and aircraft would require enormous manufacturing resources needed for building real tanks and aircraft. Then someone had a brilliantly absurd idea. What if we inflated them? The 23rd, the Headquarters Special Troops, was officially activated in January 1944. Its roster read like a Hollywood directory: artists, illustrators, radio operators, sound engineers, set designers, anyone with skills in creating convincing illusions. Among them, fashion designer Bill Blass, who would later become famous, painter Ellsworth Kelly, future abstract expressionist, wildlife illustrator Art Kane, radio actors, sound technicians from film studios. They were given rubber tanks, inflatable trucks, recordings of engine sounds, fake radio equipment, and one mission: make the Germans believe you're someone else. Their training was unlike anything in military history. Gentlemen, their commanding officer, Colonel Harry Reeder, told them during their first briefing, you are not soldiers in the traditional sense. You will not storm beaches or capture objectives. Your weapon is deception. Your battlefield is the enemy's perception. If you do your job correctly, they'll never know you existed. Private First Class Jack Mazie, a former advertising designer from New York, raised his hand. Sir, we're going to trick the Nazis with Inflatable tanks? Correct. That's insane. That's war. The inflatable tanks were engineering marvels of absurdity. Each one weighed about 100 pounds and could be inflated by 4 men in 15 minutes using air compressors. From 200 feet away, the typical altitude of reconnaissance aircraft, they looked identical to real M4 Shermans. Up close, they were obviously fake. But the entire deception operation was designed to prevent anyone from getting close. The Ghost Army deployed to Europe in May 1944, arriving just after D-Day. Their first operation was near Trevière, the mission that fooled Lieutenant Becker. The setup took 2 days. Soldiers positioned inflatable tanks in tactical formations. They erected fake radio antennas and broadcast false communications using the 2nd Armored Division's actual call signs and codes. Sound engineers set up speakers throughout the area and played recordings of tank engines, welding equipment, and soldiers shouting orders. The recordings had been made at a real tank depot in England, capturing authentic sounds of armored divisions. From the air, it looked real. On German radios, it sounded real. Through binoculars from distant German observation posts, it appeared real. But the most important element wasn't visual or auditory. It was behavioral. Ghost Army soldiers would drive into nearby towns wearing 2nd Armored Division shoulder patches. They'd drink at local cafes, complain loudly about their officers, mention their unit's movements within earshot of civilians who might be German informants. "I'm so sick of waiting," one soldier would grumble at a bar. "They keep saying we're going to attack St. Lo, but we just sit here doing maintenance." It was theater. Improvised dialogue designed to feed German intelligence exactly what the Allies wanted them to believe. And it worked. German forces reinforced positions near St. Lo, expecting an armored assault. Meanwhile, the real 2nd Armored Division attacked from an entirely different direction, encountering lighter resistance than expected. The Ghost Army had saved lives without firing a shot. Over the next 11 months, they conducted 20 major deception operations across France, Luxembourg, Belgium, and Germany. Operation Viersen, March 1945, was their masterpiece. The Allies were preparing to cross the Rhine River, the last major barrier before Germany's industrial heartland. The real crossing would occur near Rhine, where American forces had captured a bridge intact. But the Ghost Army was sent to Viersen, 50 miles north, to create the illusion of a massive crossing operation there. They brought everything: inflatable tanks, fake artillery, sound effects of construction equipment building pontoon bridges. They broadcast fake radio traffic coordinating the crossing. They even had soldiers walking around Viersen's outskirts with surveying equipment, pretending to scout crossing points. German intelligence took the bait. 2 panzer divisions were diverted north to defend against the phantom crossing at Viersen. Meanwhile, the real crossing at Remagen succeeded with minimal resistance. The deception saved an estimated 10,000 to 15,000 American lives. But not every operation went smoothly. In December 1944, during the Battle of the Bulge, the Ghost Army found itself uncomfortably close to actual combat. They'd been positioning fake artillery near Luxembourg when German forces launched their surprise offensive. Suddenly, the Ghost Army, equipped with inflatable tanks and sound equipment, was in the path of a real panzer division. "We're supposed to be pretending to be soldiers," Private Macy told his sergeant as German artillery began falling nearby. Nobody said anything about actually fighting. "Deflate the tanks, pack everything, and move," the sergeant ordered. They evacuated just hours before German forces overran the position. Had the Germans captured the Ghost Army's equipment, the entire deception program would have been exposed. The Ghost Army's existence remained classified until 1996, more than 50 years after the war ended. The soldiers who'd served couldn't tell their families what they'd done. Their service records were marked classified. Their contribution to winning the war remained secret. When the records were finally declassified, historians began piecing together the full scope of their operations. The conclusion was remarkable. The Ghost Army's deceptions had successfully misled German intelligence in every major operation they conducted. Not once had the Germans realized they were chasing phantoms. In 2019, surviving members of the Ghost Army were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, Congress's highest civilian honor. By then, most were in their 90s. Many had become successful artists, designers, and filmmakers after the war. Their military service a secret they'd kept for decades. Bill Blass, who'd become a fashion icon, once said in an interview, "The best designs I ever created were inflatable tanks in France. Everything else was just clothes." The inflatable tanks themselves, the few that survived, are now in museums. One is at the National World War II Museum in New Orleans. Visitors can walk up and touch it, feeling the rubber that once fooled the German army. Next to it is a placard with a quote from Colonel Reeder. "We were artists who went to war with imagination instead of bullets. We killed no one, but we saved thousands. That is the greatest victory any soldier can claim."